Cinderella lived happily in the magnificent palace of white stones, alongside the prince, her husband. The castle walls echoed with laughter every day, as their joy was contagious, spreading to the farthest corners of the kingdom. But this happiness grew even more when, one soft morning, a joyful little cry rose in the royal chambers. Cinderella had just become the mother of an adorable little girl whom she named Élodie. Élodie grew up bringing the same light and warmth as her mother. She was a mischievous and curious child, with the same radiant smile as Cinderella and eyes as bright as her father's. Every morning, she would rush into the vast palace gardens, running barefoot among the flowers and greeting the gardeners with a cheerful voice. Cinderella took care to teach her kindness, teaching her to respect all forms of life, whether human, animal, or plant. In her little yellow dress, Élodie sometimes chased butterflies or lay in the grass to listen to the tales of the wind. Stories of distant lands, of magical creatures, formed in her imagination, opening her mind to a wonderful world. However, despite this harmony, one morning brought with it strange news that troubled the prince. "Go out to your balcony," it was said. "Something unusual is happening in the forest." As the sun was timidly rising, a thick gray veil enveloped the nearby forest. The branches of the trees seemed to droop sadly, and the once colorful flowers lost their brightness. Élodie had to squint to see the mountains usually so visible. "What is happening, Dad?" she asked curiously. The prince frowned, perplexed. "It looks like a bad spell," he murmured. "We must understand what is causing this phenomenon. Perhaps a malevolent force is at work in our kingdom." Cinderella, worried but determined, took Élodie's hand firmly in hers. "Darling, we need to find out what's happening. Are you ready for a great adventure?" Élodie nodded with enthusiasm sparkling in her eyes, ready to illuminate the shadows of this eerie fog with her childlike courage. Cinderella and Élodie prepared for their journey into the forest. Cinderella took care to pack some provisions in a basket: sweet fruits, crunchy bread, and a warm blanket. She made sure Élodie wore her coziest jacket, as the marshy air warned her of the cold to come. As they left the palace, they were accompanied to the edge of the forest by the prince. He placed a reassuring hand on Cinderella's shoulder. "Be careful, my dear ladies. Come back quickly. We're waiting for you." Élodie, full of energy and boundless curiosity, was already running down the path, savoring every breath of fresh air still free of fog. The birdsong, though weaker than usual, briefly kept them company. But the deeper they ventured under the dense cover of ancient trees, the more silence settled, oppressive. "The trees seem sad, Mom," observed Élodie, caressing the rough bark of an old oak. Cinderella nodded, searching for clues among the roots and damp ferns. She knew that finding the cause of this sinister spell was essential to bring life and light back to the forest. As they walked between the trunks aligned like silent sentinels, suddenly a small movement caught their attention. A frightened squirrel, eyes circled with anxiety, bounded towards them, its fur a dull gray. "Oh, a friend!" exclaimed Élodie, reaching out her hand to soothe it. The squirrel stopped, hesitant but brave, climbing onto the little girl's shoulder as if to confide a secret. Through nervous movements, it seemed to indicate a path they should follow. Élodie looked at it with wonder. "Don't worry, we will help you," she whispered into the little animal's ear. Guided by the squirrel, they ventured deeper, gradually discovering the heart of the forest, where the fog was densest like an invisible barrier. Suddenly, a strange clearing unfolded before them, shimmering with a pale light despite the surrounding darkness. There, in the center, stood an old woman, mysteriously wrapped in a heavy dark cloak, casting angry glances all around her. The clearing seemed to belong to another world, paralyzed under the witch's influence. The trees surrounded the old woman like silent witnesses, and her eyes, as dark as night, stared at Cinderella and Élodie defiantly. "I am the witch of the forest," she proclaimed in a hoarse voice. "I do not like to see your kingdom so overflowing with happiness, Cinderella. This fog is my creation, and it will cover everything with sadness." Élodie, despite her young age, felt the weight of the pain buried in the witch's words. But she was not intimidated. She squeezed her mother's hand, encouraged by that loving presence. Why create sadness when the world can be full of joy? Élodie dared, her soft voice breaking the oppressive silence of the clearing. The witch looked away for a moment, her features hardened by life, softening slightly in the face of this innocent question. Cinderella, sensing a possible opening, took a step forward. "We do not want to harm you," she said gently. "We have come to listen to you. Perhaps sharing your story could put an end to your resentment." The witch regarded them, perplexed by such sincerity. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She remained silent for a moment, as if struggling with an inner battle. She began to speak in a softer voice than expected. "In my youth, I lost everything I loved. I thought that filling the world with my pain would ease my own." Élodie nodded, her heart full of compassion. "I understand," she murmured. "But maybe sharing the light could also fill that void." The witch stood still, tears threatening to fall from her tired eyes, while a gentle murmur of nature seemed to encourage her change of heart. All around them, the stagnant mist wavered, awaiting a new command. Under the enclosure of the silent trees, Élodie, with her natural candor, gently approached the witch. She felt that to break the enchantment of sadness, she had to offer something sincere and heartfelt. "I am just a child, Madam Witch, but I always wear this precious necklace," she said, pointing to a shimmering pendant hidden under her collar. The jewel shone faintly, symbolizing the love she shared with her family. Élodie detached it and delicately placed it in the old woman's hands. "It's my lucky necklace. I want to give it to you, so you can also know a little joy." The witch was speechless at such kindness. The weight of the jewel seemed light, but heavy with meaning. Someone had finally broken the cycle of her bitterness with this selfless gesture. Cinderella, seeing the witch disconcerted, stepped forward to stand beside her. "This gift will bring only light and warmth," she assured her. "Perhaps you will discover a new path." The witch, touched by this unexpected kindness, closed her eyes for a moment. A warm breeze crossed the clearing, playing with the damp foliage. Gradually, like a dream chasing a nightmare, the fog dissipated. The first rays of sunlight pierced the gray clouds, driving away the darkness. The trees regained their emerald color, their branches stretching towards the blue sky. Bird songs returned in chorus, filling the air with a joyful melody. Even the squirrel climbed joyfully into the trees, joining the symphony of nature restored. The witch welcomed this unexpected change, smiling faintly, a sincere but timid smile. "Thank you," she murmured, returning the necklace to Élodie. "Your kindness is more powerful than any spell I could have cast." With one last look of gratitude, she vanished in a swirl of sparks, leaving the clearing bathed in a new magic. After this memorable encounter, Cinderella and Élodie retraced their steps, hearts light, crossing the forest now bathed in light and life. The air was fresh, gentle, and the sun's rays played through the branches, creating a golden light carpet on the ground. Hand in hand, they walked, talking enthusiastically. "I learned so much today, Mom," began Élodie, her eyes sparkling with newfound wisdom. "Me too, my dear. Your kindness managed to transform a hardened heart." "I am so proud of you," Cinderella replied tenderly. Upon their arrival, the guards at the palace entrance welcomed their return. The news of the restored forest had already reached the castle, and joyful excitement prevailed everywhere. The prince, seeing them appear, hurried to welcome them with warm embraces. "You did it," he exclaimed, admiring their courage. Élodie laughed happily, pleased to see her father. Her adventures had enriched her, bringing even more light and kindness to her being. The prince gave Cinderella an emotional look, murmuring, "We owe so much to our daughter. She has grown in wisdom and heart today." Now, every corner of the forest vibrated with joy, and the entire kingdom celebrated this newfound peace. The trees, flowers, and rivers thrived in newly discovered harmony. The kingdom's inhabitants gathered around the palace, eager to hear the story of the little princess and her courage against the witch. Élodie, shy, recounted the events with simplicity and humility, receiving tender applause. And from that day on, Élodie was known as the princess with the big heart, who had managed to bring light even in the darkest moments. In the months that followed, Cinderella continued to teach Élodie that kindness and love remained the true magics of this world. And in the evening, when the moon softly illuminated the land, Élodie loved to fall asleep listening to her mother's tales, dreaming of new adventures and magic to share. The kingdom lived through seasons filled with serenity and abundance. Cinderella and Élodie often spent their days playing in the gardens, where vibrant colors vied for beauty under the golden light of the setting sun. The days passed in a dance of happiness, where Élodie's laughter resonated with the gentle melody of the wind. One peaceful afternoon, as Élodie played picking flowers to make crowns, she remembered her encounter with the witch and decided to write her a letter. She took scented paper and a goose quill, writing in her best handwriting. "Dear friend, I wanted to thank you for the magic you left in the forest. I hope you are doing better and find joy around you now. Maybe you could come back to see us one day to share new stories? With all my friendship, Élodie." She carefully folded the letter and slipped it into an envelope adorned with floral illustrations. She promised to entrust it to the first messenger bird she encountered. Cinderella, always attentive to her daughter's thoughts, suggested, "Why not dream of other stories where kindness triumphs? Maybe each dream could grow and inspire others in their own lives." Élodie thought, imagining a world where everyone shared the same kindness and where creations of the mind were powerful. She smiled at the idea of creating more captivating stories, full of magic and heart. At nightfall, after dining with her family and slipping under the cozy covers, Élodie closed her eyes and flew into her dreams. She imagined an enchanted forest where inhabitants and creatures lived in harmony, understanding the importance of love and sharing. And thus, the little princess with the big heart invited all the kingdom's children to dream their own happy endings, convinced that within every dream lies the power to transform the world.